the business development, emerging African brands, emerging African fashion brands. With this accelerator, we also support creative businesses more in general, not only fashion brands. Recently, last year, we supported a new director from an African country whose film has been screened at the last Sundance Film Festival in the US. So this accelerator for creatives and particularly for emerging fashion brands, and also to mobilize investment in these brands, which is quite an issue because the continent is very difficult investment-wise, as the cost of capital in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, is in many countries very, very high, and so the expected return of an investor is very, very high, and this is often not consistent with the kind of returns that an emerging small brand in the fashion industry can offer. And the third thing, we are an advocacy center on ESG in the supply chains. We struck a partnership with the Italian Association of Fashion Brands, which is called Camera della Moda Italiana. And with them, with all their members, we created the due diligence system, an ESG due diligence system, and then also, which evolved also in a system of ESG performance, monitoring and management, and then in a corporate reporting system. This is, of course, consistent with the ongoing legislation of the European Union on corporate sustainability reporting, supply chain, human rights and environmental due diligence, and so on. So this is what we are today. But we were motivated initially to create this program by the need to create a supply chain that offers decent, dignified working conditions to people in conditions of marginality, of social and economic marginality.
Yes. Wow. That's really a lot, Simone, but that's an amazing feat as well. I mean, I think we can round out some of that conversation with the work that you're doing with Camera della Moda. Curious though, on the production side of the work that you're doing, maybe you can explain a little bit how private sector companies and brands that are maybe joining today could really start working with artists, artists and their supply chains, or artisans in general, with the projects that you're doing, and how could they really connect in and really help these organizations, and also the work that you're setting up, these accelerator programs, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely. Private company, international brands and distributors usually work with us in the following way. Wherever we work, in every country where we work, we create a central social enterprise. This is the commercial interface with international brands and distributors, with customers. Right. Then behind this social enterprise, there's a plethora, a huge amount of cooperatives. We enable artisans, especially women artisans, who usually work in the informal economy, which is to say without any formal business registration. We enable them to become a formal company, to access the formal economy. Usually it's in the form of a cooperative. Sometimes in Kenya, for instance, it's in the form of a self-help group, which allows you to have a VAT position and so on. So these are formal entities that are the supply chain of the social enterprise. The social enterprise does the product development with the international brand and distributors. They agree on terms and conditions on trade and what we need to produce, and then farms out production to this huge amount of cooperatives, while doing control of quality, control of production, while doing training and capacity building. It's on-the-job learning, so that we offer all these artisans a possibility of continuous evolution, continuous improvement in their capacities. At the very beginning, just in the area of bags, we just made tote bags. Now we make an important collection of Forbidden West, for Stella McCartney, and so on. It's what interacting with international customers brings in a discipline: the market discipline, the production discipline, respect of delivery times, respect of quality standards, and then the product development. Of course, it's not easy to do it with the fashion industry, with the international fashion industry.
Yes.
It runs fast. The timing of product development is often squeezed. And so you really need, when you start working with international partners, you really need to sit together and say, listen, this is what we can do. This is what we cannot do. Let's not even try that. Sometimes you meet people of goodwill, people who want to help and tell you, why don't we try to do this? And you have to be strong enough to say, even if it is an important brand, listen, we are not able to do that. Let's avoid this now, maybe in the future. Let's focus on what we can do. But on the contrary, we have incredible partnerships with Armani. They designed some products for them to be perfectly consistent with our production lines. This is the very last one that we did. So this is a bit the way in which we work with the accelerator. You touch an important point. We didn't want to have only a supply chain and to have the creative side of the story only outside the continent, outside sub-Saharan Africa, but we wanted the creativity of Africa to get hold of this supply chain, to use this supply chain, to grow with this supply chain, even in the African market, in the international market. And we discovered that this is a possibility. We discovered that the creative capacities in the places where we work are huge. Just to give you an idea, when we launched the accelerator, the first accelerator, we did a call for public manifestation of interest. We received 253 applications from 18 different countries. Creativity is there. You have the film industry of Nigeria. You have the film industry of Uganda. Uganda now has other issues that are very, very serious, legal, and there's issues of inclusivity, of discrimination that are really very, very bad.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of creativity all over the continent, and the continent is huge. It's 54 countries. We often speak about Africa, but it doesn't mean anything to say Africa. It's a huge place with many different countries, the richness of diversity. And I shut up, otherwise I speak too much.
No. You just put it into context that Africa is a very, very large continent, and there's so much diversity even in that opportunity there. So one of the things that you had, just circle back to, you had mentioned the EFI and what you started, the ESG framework partnership with Camera della Moda. Tell us a little bit more about what that entails and that program and how really it ties into the social as well as all the work that you're doing, in Africa and everywhere else.
It was motivated by two parallel big moves, big changes in our world. One is our supply chain. Working in the supply chain, as we wanted to use the supply chain as a vehicle of development, since the very beginning, we created, first of all, a system of social and environmental impact assessment to check that the work we were doing was really impactful in a positive way. But secondly, we also, as we were part of the UN, implemented immediately and entirely into all the elements of fair labor, which is to say the international labor law, the fundamental principles and rights at work, and then the logic of the UN general principles on business and human rights, the OECD principles on sustainable business, and so on. And then we also tried to implement a living wage discipline. Living wage discipline is something complex. Living wage is an objective. It's not something that you can pay like this, immediately throwing money. It's something that requires to invest in people, for people to become so productive to reach the level of the living wage. So it's a huge investment in human capital, and from there in social capital. This is why we start. That was the first line of movement we were following. The second one was the evolution in the industry. The industry has over these years has become aware of the issue of sustainability, and along with this, the regulator has become more aware of that. In Europe, where is the majority of the brands with which we work, the European Union is regulating the sphere of sustainability in a very serious way.
Absolutely.
And then there are movements in the UK and so on. Just think that in the parliament, the discussion is now around a supply chain act that envisages also a human rights and environmental due diligence, compulsory due diligence for fashion companies. There is already the new corporate sustainability directive. Directive is a European law that each country has to adopt and translate into their own legislation. But then there are also countries that are more advanced. Just think that in Germany, the 3/4 of discarded clothes are recovered.
Right.
A part only is recycled, but 3/4 are recovered in a world in which only 1% of discarded clothes is on global scale is recovered. This is an outstanding achievement, and it's because of the regulator. So we had on one side our nature of pushing for sustainability. On the other side, a European regulator heavily intervening in this sphere and an industry that was catching up. We decided to approach this from the point of view of ESG. ESG is a way to, beyond polemics, ESG is good, but we see it as a way to address the basic criteria of sustainability, the environmental, the social, and the governance. The governance, because sustainability starts with the purpose, with the governance of a company, purpose first, and then governance, and then strategy, and then the activities, and then to put the strategy in practice. So these are the key criteria. A company cannot be sustainable if the governance is not structured in the way to be sustainable. This is why we elaborated this. When we were doing this, many of our customers started telling us, why don't you come to meet with our association? So we went to meet La Fédération de la Mode à Paris, because we work with many French brands, and we went to meet the Camera de la Moda. In Camera de la Moda, we found, at Camera de la Moda, we found a very receptive ear. They were managing those fashion sustainability awards and said, hey, let's work together. And they created a meeting like a round table for all their brands to come regularly and to meet with us. So we tested the due diligence tool on ESG that we had developed with them. We are now developing a new one for smaller suppliers. It's for supply chains. We discussed all the available tools for performance monitoring and management at the international sphere. We discussed all the available tools in sustainability for corporate reporting, sustainability reporting. So it's a working group that is very, very, very fruitful and also very, very prolific. And it gives us the opportunity as EFI to interact directly with some giants of the industry. So it's a very practical thing.
Yeah. And so I'll lead into that question, which is how, if we were talking now to these American brands, there's two things that we have. One, we're following where the EU is with, we have legislation that is hoping to get passed through the United States. We had the team on a few weeks ago with the New York State Passion and Accountability Act. There are definitely different, legislations that are going through in California and Oregon and different states.
California, absolutely, very innovative.
Yeah, so we really believe that. So, the focus here, and again, we're circling back, is that we don't just have SMEs, which we were focusing this platform as we discussed earlier, but we have a lot of other companies. How do you see, or how do you incentivize these companies to really get on this social programming and the ESG platforms? Where do you see the opportunity for them to quickly turn the dial for themselves?
On one side, there is the regulator in Europe that is pushing this. And this is a very important move. That is something that has helped a lot. Yes. On the other side, there's the human nature. The human nature, I would say mindfulness, understanding that there is more than simply yourself in this world. It's something that is connected in a way to meditation, the way the capacity to feel yourself as part of a wider whole. Well, I see that many individuals in position of responsibility in this industry start feeling that. That is something that is extremely important, because sustainability is a journey, it's not a blueprint, and it's very difficult. It's a tough journey where you have to find solutions, issues, problems. You have to use one tool, then you use another.
Yeah.
You need commitment. And the commitment can only come from an inner motivation, which comes from this kind of mindfulness. And I think this is growing in the industry. We have an issue, a generational issue. We have younger people in this industry that would like to run much faster on this agenda, but you have also experienced people who really feel this need, and at the top of the industry, I think there is a general agreement. At least here in Europe, I see a lot of issues in the middle management. Because the middle management still is evaluated in terms of performance with the old tools.
That's right.
You have to realize this kind of profit, you have to realize this, you have to do that, and this is not always consistent with sustainability. But if people see their bonuses linked to a form of evaluation and appraisal that values other values, well, they are not always incentivized to go to that. So it's the top of the industry, as they are reaching this state of mindfulness, to also make provision for other people to enjoy the same state in the middle management and to change the structure of incentive. This is a very important point.
Yeah, I agree with you.
The structure of
Absolutely.
incentive in this industry, if we don't change this, sustainability is really a tough call.
Yeah, and I guess that goes to the biggest question now, which I really wanted to really hit, because this also involves our ecosystem, that Ethical Fashion, World Collective, all of the programs that we're building across this ecosystem, which is to support all of these brands and creatives around the world. Is that we have a lot of critics out there. How do you become ethical and sustainable? And it's only accessible to a certain amount, as we talked about. A lot of big companies can do it, but how do you help the rest of the majority of these, SMEs or creatives that are really impactful and make a real impact to the industry? What can these companies do? And that's hopefully what we're going to be discussing today, which is what we're doing with Ethical Fashion and what we're doing at the World Collective. But how would you wrap it up with these guys and say, what is your response to allowing accessibility for ethical and sustainable fashion for all groups?
It's a big issue. It's a big issue, and it's not an easy question. Big groups are incentivized in many ways. They have also the power, the capacities, the financial capacities, because it's a big investment. This is about big investment to invest in this. They have the investors who want sustainability, because sustainability is now a part of the long-term performance of a company. So a long-term investor is also interested in sustainability. Credit rating companies, Moody's and so on, they are all equipping themselves with the capacities to evaluate corporate sustainability reports and so on. But for smaller companies, this has to trickle down. So it trickles down if they are in the supply chain through good, sustainable supply practices.
Right.
It's useless to have an incredible sustainability agenda at the headquarters, and then this doesn't apply in the supply chain. This is why our ESG due diligence system is tailored to work in the supply chain for even smaller suppliers to participate, to appraise themselves, to position themselves as regards their position in sustainability. And then when it comes to smaller companies that directly work with consumers, that's the issue of the dialogue with consumers, which is not easy because there's a cacophony, there's too much noise around sustainability, and the communication of sustainability is not always clear, to the point that just take the corporate sustainability reports of 10 different brands. They are completely different.
Yes.
Comparing them is not easy. It's not easy. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes they are an exercise of creative writing. and you cannot do this on financial reports because there are the international accounting standards. But in sustainability, in the fashion industry, the Global Reporting Initiative is working on a global standard for reporting on sustainability. And that's very important because we need to compare sustainability reports. And this is also for consumers, and this is important also for small companies who work directly with consumers, because if they cannot express their sustainability clearly, their voice is cancelled out by the bigger voice of the big brands, of the big distributors, and all their different, sometimes contrasting messages.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
You have also contrasting message. Well, this way to report on sustainability, the European Union has another legislative initiative, which is very interesting, which is a law on sustainability claims. Yes. What you mean when you say carbon neutral? What you mean when you say to avoid greenwashing and social washing?
But the Green Directive is an amazing thing, and you can see all of these guys had to pull back in the last few weeks. If you've been following as well, it's really having such an impact and ripple across the industry. To Simone's point, where you really just can't claim anything that you want these days, and I find that's super important to clear the decks and really let's define what sustainability, environmental, social, and governance could mean across all the spectrum. Simone, can I ask if I could go through a little bit and maybe wrap up with little questions from our audience if anybody has specific questions. But in the meantime, what I wanted to do is I just want to address the ESG discussions we did, and I'm going to show just a few slides, and then I'm going to circle back to you, Simone, if you can, and so everyone could have a question. So if you guys just bear with me, I'm just going to bring.
To allow me, I just say hello to a couple of friends that
I see you see them. Yes, of course.
Rita, Sylvia, I see them there. So nice to you again.
Yeah, a lot of people. You have a lot of people on here, and the great part is that we are recording this, and we will be putting it up for Simone on our YouTube channel after this. So I'm going to, some chats here. Let's see what we have. Hello, that's Britta. Nice to see you. Okay, so I'm going to just connect in on something that we're working on. And I just, because Simone and I have really been working and talking about this earlier, but I want to just bring you guys to the next level.
Lifestyle brands are under pressure to implement environmental, social, and governance solutions to their business. Governments are enforcing legislation for sustainable production and consumption. Lack of financial investment on new technology is needed for scaling clean supply chains. Small and medium-sized companies must adapt quickly to be part of the solution for systemic change. World Collective is a globally minded supply chain resource for transformative innovation, offering global impact services. Supply Chain Innovation Hub, transparency and traceability, carbon reduction tracking, environmental and social impact projects, executive education programs, membership benefits, navigate sustainable and innovative supply chain, educate multi-stakeholders, measure and communicate ESG progress, mitigate legislation risks, and answer stakeholders' demand. Join us at worldcollective.com.
So that is just a little opening of who we are and what we're doing. And today, Ethical Fashion Initiative and Simone, they are part of our ecosystem that we're putting together because we feel that, all of us, it's a big tent approach, right? We're all doing things, and combining this ecosystem, amazing organizations and opportunity is how we can create a really foundational support system to most of these companies around the world by using everyone's advantages and everyone's platform to create and tighten up the supply chain, kind of ecosystem and forum. So this is who we are. We're a globally minded supply chain resource hub for transformative innovation. Basically, our services are, a supply chain hub. We have transparency and traceability. We have impact projects, and we have education. And I'll explain how each one of our partners kind of work into this frame. Basically, what we have done over the last year when we were gathering all this is we've created an innovation hub, which is about 500 innovators across the globe, from Asia to Europe to the US, South America. And we're talking about life embracing, the newest technology, and we have availability for these vetted supplies for anyone who wants to join our membership programs. We also have matchmaking consulting services where you can kind of connect in with all of the supply chain, partners and suppliers. We have impact projects, and we also do report back, kind of on the committee annually on where we're going to be spending the money, i.e. if we have a group of members who want to support ethical fashion and Simone's projects, we will be announcing that crowdsourcing opportunity, and we're gathering a lot more people so they have more impact. We have laboratory testing. We have SGS as our partner. We have offered and negotiated pricing that is, bar none in the industry. We have blockchain technology with BEX, and we have carbon tracking and reporting capabilities for carbon accounting. This all is allowed to any of the members who join the portfolio. We're also going to be looking at the environmental and social projects. This is where ethical fashion, we're tipping on both environmental and social. We have Climate Impact X, who are doing biodiversity programs through UNEP. So we hope to support these programs as well. And this will be available to everybody. I'm not really going to spend a lot of time because I really want to come back to Simone, and we're going to have some questions. So we also have an innovation summit. We have lots of talks like this. Simone's spending his time. We had legislation last month. Next month, we start our whole innovation month, where we're going to be featuring some of the most amazing innovations in the fashion industry, and we'll be highlighting them for all of our program members, but also for people who are really just interested to find out. And we have some programs. We have it with IFD that's going to be help coordinating our training and workshops for these programs. So just a snapshot what we have now started. We have operations in Stockholm, where we have an office there, and we also have one in Hong Kong and New York. And obviously with our partner programs, Simone's all around the world. We also have different organizations like SGS or BEX, who are also located in Africa. We have about 500 vetted suppliers and innovators. That is part of our program. We have also connected with We Don't Have Time, which is the largest kind of social media kind of platform program that really works with environmental and social causes. We are looking at hopefully our crowdfunding capabilities so that all of our members have opportunity to connect in with some innovations that only the big companies can do. And that is really what we're hoping to unlock, taking the power of a collective, connecting it together, and giving you the same opportunity as some of the bigger players in the market. This is our team globally, just to let you know. We have different membership tiers, and I can go through them at a later date, and you can always just sign on to the website, and we can be sending you the deck as well. Just to give you a snapshot of what our benefits really, we have about 50% off. So if you wanted to do these programs on your own, they would cost you a lot more. But what we're doing is we're creating economies of scale. We're creating opportunity for everybody to have a voice in the industry. It's more diverse, it's more inclusive, it has bigger opportunities for everybody to be able to gain the same resources, respect, and opportunity that the big companies can have. So we allow all of these programs to be, accessible to everyone in our protocol. Very simple process. You join, you innovate, you kind of report your progress, and you look to, showcase it to the rest of the world. You can just sign up on the websites to access. Here's just a kind of opportunity of who and what we do. We have our innovation hub. We have SGS. We help you with carbon footprint on products. We offer blockchain technology, and we have a nature-based solution on our impact projects. Every year, we'll be looking at some of our members to be reporting back on this progress and hoping to share it. We're also working strategically with some very high-level companies to help. As this is a nonprofit, we really are hoping that a lot of companies will be signing up to support and offer some more technology through Amazon and Google and other things. So here's what our kind of snapshot of our dashboard is going to be looking like for most of anyone who wants to join this program. So we want to be able to give you new suppliers that you're using. What is your transparency of your programs? How to trace it. 75% of your supply chain has traceability, including worker pay, carbon, water, electricity use, and you get to enroll in projects, and also you get to have active credits. And I will showcase the conversations we had with UNEP, and that will be separate, and I'll be giving you the links today for you to also be looking at the YouTube channel that we have. We have pre-recorded with several other organizations through the United Nations to support different programs here. So I'm going to offer this program up now, and if anybody there's a question here in Italian. Is that Sylvia? You want to ask the question, Sylvia?
Hey there.
Hi,
Ciao
Sylvia.
Simone, come va?
Ciao Silvia,
right-
buongiorno.
Ciao, buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Ho vissuto in Italia, per quello che ho scritto in italiano. So basically, I just wanted to know, and I was listening to what you were saying, and congratulations on your work. It's just amazing, and it's wonderful. And thank you so much, Janine, for inviting me to be here, because it's absolutely empowering to actually listen to all these examples and what you've been doing with the industry and the fashionable industry. So basically, I have this program in Portugal. It's been on for 2.5 years, and it's also based on sustainability, mostly reused textiles, repurposed ones, with a social intent to it. And what I was wondering is if your work is just focused in Africa, and just for apparel, or also with other textile units, and if you would also consider something like what's going on in Portugal, since we have such a huge textile industry in Europe, as you know.
Simone?
Yeah, I think we met exactly in Portugal, and I think we met in Porto, because you must be based not far from Porto.
I'm in Braga.
You are, okay. Because the textile industry is around Porto.
Guimarães, yes.
And I am aware of what goes on in Portugal, which is exciting, really. And Portugal is the forefront of innovation as regards reusing textiles, circularity. There's a lot going on, and I'm always amazed to see that you and your Portuguese colleagues didn't invite me recently, and I would like to be back and to see what you're all doing. We focus on several sub-Saharan African countries in Western Africa, Burkina Faso, Mali, Benin, Ivory Coast. We focus in Kenya. We used to focus in Uganda. Now we have to see what happens. And we also have designers in Rwanda, in Burundi, in Nigeria, in South Africa. We work in Lesotho. So as you see, we work in many places. Our mandate is at present in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa. We have Italy and the European fashion industry because of this mandate on the ESG. So if there is a possibility to work together, it's exactly on that ESG component of our work, where we would be really happy to interact with Portuguese fashion companies, especially textile mills and all those who work in circularity, because it's a great piece of work. We function on the basis of budgets that are provided by our donors, that are governments, because we are an intergovernmental institution. So if we decide to engage in Portugal, we need to have also some conversation with your governments, but that would be easy. So let's say this, we could take the opportunity of a visit to the next set of events that you have in Porto, and we could start from there.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll take that into
Thanks to
consideration.
you. Thanks to you.
We have some other questions there. I think there was someone has their hand raised. I'm just trying to find them. 1 second. Was it Britta? Oh, yeah. For a small brand in the USA that wants to work with artisans, how would we connect and, I don't know, I guess really, and start that process? Well, I think what we're going to say is,
connecting with us is difficult. Connecting with us for a small brand is difficult because our focus is creating, in the supply chain, is creating jobs and sustainable jobs. So when we invest development money, we need to invest it in partnerships with large brands that offer more guarantees in terms of impact, of quantities, and of continuity. Continuity is very important also. So it's not that we refuse to work with small brands, we also engage, but our systems are tailored on bigger organizations. However, in the past, we have worked also with small brands, also from the US. And sometimes it didn't work, sometimes it worked. When it worked because we decided to do something very, 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 very specific, very consistent with our capacities. And we found the way to agree on good terms of trade, or we found the sponsor for this collaboration. The brand found the sponsor in some investor or in somebody in the market and so on. So you are in touch with the distributor, you design, you are the brand that creates the thing, but then it's distributed by a big distributor that finances the collaboration. I mean, this kind of things. However, it's difficult, and if we are in the process of working with some of our giants, we queue these collaborations with small brands for obvious reasons, because in the supply chain, I repeat, our mandate is to create sustainable jobs where we work and to create as many jobs as possible in this. You know that in Europe, there's also a huge issue on irregular migration from the continent, from Africa, but also from all the places where there are issues today in this war. There are many refugees from Ukraine, of course, but also from Syria, from Afghanistan. So we are also trying to work in such a way that we create also work opportunities for all these people. So again, we need to partner with people with companies that can
have consistency.
Numbers.
So it's not, so just to add a little bit of depth also to how we could figure this out and how we were looking, because it's not sustainable to go in and out of these you do more harm by starting
No,
these things
no.
than if you don't have consistency. So what we're hoping to do here is, as we can do a call to action for several brands across the globe to get involved, and maybe we can then collectively send those orders and use those artisans for a specific project through our collective organization as a crowdfunding or crowdsourcing, because these organizations or accelerators and artisans have to be consistently used in order for it to be sustainable and economically viable for them. So yeah, we could do more harm if we don't continue operations.
It's a matter of fact, continuity, and it's very important. It's a very important element of our
Absolutely.
of our business model. I'm sorry, I will close the shutter here because it was very cloudy and suddenly
that's all. We're all looking for the sun.
I am
Okay,
in Toscany,
okay.
the sun comes out.
Yeah, exactly. Do we have any other questions here? I just saw some others with their hands up. Is there anybody else that has anything that they want to talk to Simone about, or do you have questions about the platforms that we're working on? And hopefully, as we continue this journey together, we will continue to build muscles and opportunity for everybody, including the artisans, but also for companies to have the opportunity to use these resources in their portfolio and to contribute. So if you don't have any more questions here, I'm gonna wrap it up and say thank you again, Simone and your team. Really appreciate it. We're really honored and so thankful. Everyone, I will be sending an email with a link for this if you want to send it around. It will also be on our YouTube, and I'll be posting it on social media for anybody's.
Britta, one day we'll meet in Portland. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you, gentlemen. Bye, everybody.
Yes. Yeah, we're good. So Britta's working with us now, so we're going to be doing this ethical fashion everywhere.